Today, you'll learn to measure your English progress every week with 3 trackers. You'll spot improvement and choose your next goal, so progress feels visible. I can now describe my morning routine without stopping as measurable evidence. Notice why it works. What else should you measure each week? This week, I is a useful opening for a progress report because it places the result inside one clear time period. Compare I learned words with this week. I learned 10 words and used 8 in sentences. Say the second version and notice the evidence. That makes later comparisons easier.
I feel more confident is natural, neutral English, but it is not a measurement because feelings are subjective. I might say, I feel more confident speaking in meetings, but I still track my speaking time. Choose the evidence that could be checked next week. Then add one concrete result beside that feeling too.
I still need to work on points to a skill that needs more practice. In natural speech, to is often reduced, so the stressed words are still, need, work, and the skill. Repeat. I still need to work on understanding fast connected speech. Notice the rhythm. Keep the skill prominent. A feeling tells you something useful, but our next decision needs stronger evidence. We will compare 3 signals: active words, listening comprehension, and speaking performance. The important question is not am I good, but what changed from my own previous result? Keep that baseline in mind. 3 signals will answer that question more fairly. My listening score improved tells you the direction of change, but numbers make the claim useful. Say, my listening score improved from 6 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. Because both scores come from comparable tasks, you can test the improvement rather than guess. Numbers make change visible.
Compared with last week keeps the reference point on your own past performance. For example, I used more target words correctly compared with last week. This is better than comparing yourself with a classmate because their starting point is different. Apply the phrase to one result.
Stay the same means a result did not meaningfully change. If your speaking time is 55 seconds in 2 checks, you can say, my speaking time stayed the same. Choose what that means, failure or useful information. The better answer is useful information for planning. That flat result can direct the next week of practice. Set a micro goal means choose one small target for the next short study period. Recall the rule. Use the weakest or flattest metric. For example, I will set a micro goal of scoring 7 out of 10 on 2 similar listening checks. Say one measurable goal aloud. Keep it measurable. I can now describe my morning routine without stopping. This sentence works because it names an ability you can demonstrate, not just a feeling. Test it by recording yourself on the same topic next week. Notice whether the task becomes longer, smoother, or easier to complete. Record it.
This week, I learned 10 new words. That sounds positive, but it only tells us what was studied. A stronger check asks what you can retrieve without notes. Compare it with, I could actively use 6 of those words and sentences. Choose the stronger evidence. Test recall.
I can watch 5 minutes of a show without subtitles. This is neutral, practical progress language because it includes a task, a duration, and a condition. Use it only when the material is reasonably comparable. Say it once, then notice exactly what makes it measurable. Keep conditions stable. Now vocabulary gives us a model. Measure performance, not exposure. Listening needs the same discipline, but another condition matters. If this week's clip is much harder than last week's, a lower score may reflect the task, not your ability. What must stay similar? This week, I learned 10 new words and used them in sentences. Listen to how weak I link smoothly in connected speech instead of sounding like 2 isolated blocks. Because the result includes use, it is stronger than list length alone. Repeat it with natural rhythm. Linking keeps the sentence natural.
My listening score improved from 5 out of 10 to 7 out of 10. The from-to pattern shows the earlier and later result clearly. Because the task is comparable, the numbers mean something. Repeat the sentence and stress 5 and 7. Keep the metric and both numbers prominent, then use your own score.
This week, I can speak for 1 minute without checking my notes. Apply this pattern beyond speaking. It works when you can name a task, a condition, and something you no longer need. Because those details are observable, the statement can be tested again next week. Change topics, but keep the same measurement conditions. I learned 12 words, but I could actively use 8. Which number belongs in your active vocabulary tracker? Choose before the answer. It is 8 because active vocabulary means you can retrieve and use the words, not simply recognize them after studying. Test yourself with notes closed. I can describe my morning routine for 60 seconds without stopping. Recall why this is better than my speaking is better. It gives you a repeatable task and a condition. Say the sentence, then ask yourself whether next week's recording could be compared fairly with it.
This week, I studied 10 new words and could actively use 6 of them. That means 6 is the active vocabulary result, because study exposure and usable retrieval are different. Apply the same check to your own list. Close your notes, recall words, then build correct sentences. Close your notes before counting.
My listening score this week was 6 out of 10. This is stronger than my listening was okay, because 6 out of 10 creates a baseline. Compare it with a similar task later. Choose the valid conclusion. A score is useful when conditions are comparable. Similar tasks make the score trustworthy next week. We can now track vocabulary and listening with evidence, so speaking should be simple, right? Not quite. A timer gives useful data, but duration can hide hesitation, repetition, or unfinished ideas. If speaking time rises, what quality signal should you check? Check quality. My listening score improved from 6 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. This is accurate reporting because it describes one measured skill rather than claiming your English improved. Now choose between that and my English improved in every area. Which statement is safer? Narrow claims are easier to verify.
My word recall improved from 8 to 12 words compared with last week. In connected speech, keep the key numbers and word recall prominent, while smaller grammar words stay lighter. Because the listener needs the change, not every syllable equally stressed. Repeat it with number contrast.
No. I should use a similar listening task next week before comparing the scores. Repeat it because it repairs a common measurement mistake. If one test is a learner dialogue and the other is a fast news debate, the score difference may reflect difficulty, not progress. Keep task type, length, and difficulty reasonably similar. I feel more fluent, and my 1-minute speaking check had fewer long pauses than last week. This works because the feeling is supported by observable evidence. Apply the rule, keep confidence as context, then add one measurable speaking signal that a weekly recording can test. Keep the conclusion specific. I studied 20 new words, and I could recall and use 13 correctly. Which number shows active vocabulary? Choose 13 because retrieval and use are the performance measured.
I should compare scores from listening tasks with similar length and difficulty. Recall this before judging change, because different task conditions can distort the result. Apply it to 2 clips, 3 minutes at B1 and 10 minutes of debate. Those scores should not be compared directly. Fair comparisons match conditions, not just the language.
I spoke for 2 minutes and completed the task with fewer long pauses than last week. The evidence combines time with one quality signal. Check pauses, unfinished sentences, or task completion. Also check whether the answer stayed clear and complete throughout. I can now is useful when you can prove a new ability, but it is weak if the sentence is vague. Compare I can now speak better with I can now speak for 1 minute without notes. Choose the second because the condition is testable. Conditions tell you what to retest later. 3 measurements only help if you interpret them together. Imagine vocabulary rises, speaking rises, and listening stays flat. The next decision is not to study everything harder. It is to identify the flat signal and use it to guide one focused action. Keep stronger areas stable while the flat metric gets focused practice.
This week, I is neutral for a study journal, a lesson review, or a conversation with a teacher. Use it to report evidence, not just activity. For example, this week, I recalled 9 target expressions without notes. Say your own result and include a measurable detail.
I feel more confident can support a progress report, but emphasize confident and the skill that follows. Because it is secondary evidence, pair it with a result. Say, I feel more confident speaking, and my recording had fewer long pauses. Notice the contrast. The recording gives that feeling measurable support. I still need to work on names the weaker area without calling the week a failure. Use it after reviewing your data. For example, I still need to work on fast listening. Repeat the phrase, then choose one practice action that matches the weak metric. It names a practice priority. My listening score improved is useful only after you establish comparable results. Repeat, My listening score improved from 6 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. Because the numbers show change, apply the pattern to a metric. Speaking time improved from 50 to 65 seconds. Keep the tasks comparable.
Compared with last week is the best reference when checking personal improvement. Suppose you recall 12 words now, 8 last week, while a classmate recalls 20. Say, my word recall improved compared with last week. Because the classmate is not your baseline, choose your own result. Keep the comparison personal and fair.
Stay the same does not mean nothing useful happened. Recall what a flat metric tells you, where to focus. If listening remains 6 out of 10 while vocabulary rises, say, my listening score stayed the same. Then choose listening as the priority for the next micro goal. A flat score points toward your next practice. Set a micro goal means turn one weak result into one small, measurable next step. For example, if speaking stays at 55 seconds, say, I will record 3 answers and aim for 65 seconds with fewer long pauses. Apply the structure to your weakest tracker now. Keep it checkable. One more test matters before you trust the system. Can you use the system without prompts? We will move from guided examples to an independent weekly review. You will need to measure, compare, summarize, and choose one next action from fresh results. Close your notes before making that first decision independently.
I can now describe my morning routine without stopping. That is stronger than I am more fluent because it names a demonstration. In your review, test the claim with a timed recording. Choose one quality signal, such as fewer pauses, so duration does not mislead you. That prevents overreading a longer answer.
This week, I learned 10 new words. On its own, that is an incomplete progress claim because it counts exposure. A better check is, I studied 10 words and could actively use 7. Say the stronger version, then test your own vocabulary with the notes closed. I can watch 5 minutes of a show without subtitles. When you say this naturally, stress watch, 5 minutes, show, and without subtitles, keep smaller words lighter. Because those content words carry the measurable conditions, repeat the line once and notice the rhythm of the evidence. Then record whether the same condition is easier next week. This week, I learned 10 new words and used them in sentences. Repeat it, then make the evidence stricter. How many could you use without looking? Because active recall is the stronger measure, your weekly tracker should record the number you can retrieve and use correctly. That keeps the vocabulary tracker honest.
My listening score improved from 5 out of 10 to 7 out of 10. Transfer the pattern to a result. Speaking time moved from 50 seconds to 65. Because the form reports 2 comparable points, say, my speaking time improved from 50 seconds to 65 seconds. Then decide whether both results came from comparable speaking tasks.
This week, I can speak for 1 minute without checking my notes. Which part makes this measurable? This week, 1 minute, or without checking my notes. Choose all 3, because together they define time, duration, and condition. Say the sentence again and hear the complete evidence. Those details enable comparison. I learned 12 words, but I could actively use 8. Recall the distinction. Which number belongs in the active tracker? 8, because the tracker measures retrieval and use. Now apply the rule to 15 studied expressions when you can use 9. Record 9 as active. That is active. You have the rules. Now solve one fresh weekly record independently. Do not judge it with one global word like better. Separate vocabulary, listening, and speaking first. Compare each with its own baseline. Then decide which result is weakest or flat enough to guide next week. Use the weakest result for one measurable step.
I can describe my morning routine for 60 seconds without stopping. This gives you a repeatable speaking result, not proof that every skill improved. Apply the full rule. Pair the time with one quality signal. Then compare both with your previous recording before making a conclusion. Check other skills.
This week, I studied 10 new words and could actively use 6 of them. That is stronger than saying you learned 10, because it separates exposure from performance. For your recap, record 6 as active, then choose a recall target that is realistic for next week. Keep studied and active counts separate on paper. My listening score this week was 6 out of 10. This neutral sentence creates a baseline. It does not yet prove improvement. Use it before a comparable score. Say it clearly, stress 6 and 10, then notice why my listening was okay. Gives you less information. Next week, repeat the same clip type and question total. My listening score improved from 6 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. Link smaller words and stress listening, 6 and 8, because those carry the comparison. Repeat it once. Then use your 3 trackers this Sunday. Summarize the evidence and set one micro goal. If the 3 skills move differently, let the weakest metric choose next week's practice target.